and Drink Show! Dads and Drink Show! Dads and Drink Show!
Hey, everybody. It's the Dads and Drink Show. How are you today, Jeremiah?
I'm feeling good, Jeff. Mother's Day weekend. I don't have the kid, so it's kind of a Father's Day weekend for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I won't even go into it, but I did have the kids. You know, I just dropped them off with their mother, so they get to basically go to her house and go to bed. So, hey, it is what it is. Maybe that was her best Mother's Day.
Right. You never know, man. Everyone's dream is different. It's funny.
You go.
My ex-wife loves to pack her day with everything. Like, she's sending me pictures all day of like them playing frisbee golf and doing all this other stuff. I'm like, dude, on Father's Day, I really just want to lay around and watch baseball or maybe old wrestling because my son's into it. Like, I don't want to do anything really.
Yeah, I'll be honest. One of the things with me, I was texting a buddy earlier, and he's like, "Oh, you don't have the kids today?" I'm like, "No, I do. I'm up with my sisters and my mom. So I mean, they all have kids, and my brother and his wife. So there's 4 mothers there, and so it made sense me having my kids there. But I'm like, yeah, she didn't seem interested in having them, so it's me." And he's like, well, that's probably the best Mother's Day. I'm like, right. You know what the sad thing is? Like, the best Father's Day for me is be like, go get day drunk. Go get day drunk. Do whatever you want. Obviously, we don't have a spouse that can just be like, you go out in the backyard and drink by the pool and I'll watch the kids. You just relax, listen to baseball, and just drink all day. Isn't that what we all want? But kinda. I do feel like until your kids are of drinking age, it's kind of still, even though it's Father's Day or Mother's Day, it's still mostly about like making them happy that they're celebrating. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. No, finally my son's getting to an age where he's taking some initiative on his own because I've been on the hook for Mother's Day for like forever. So it was awesome when I talked to him at the beginning of the week and I'm like, what are we doing for your mom for Mother's Day? He was like, I made this stuff at school. I'm going to say no more. Yes, you did. That is beautiful. You have covered the Mother's Day gift.
My ex-wife is remarried and she has kids with her new husband. I feel like I'm off the hook for that now a little bit. Like, nice. Right? Like that's his job.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Yeah. You're off the hook.
Because the last couple of years, Mother's Day's kind of snuck up on me. So,
well, you know what? I think it's apropos that today's episode that we're going to go through involves something that happens a lot on Mother's Day, right? Because one of the Mother's Day things seems to be brunch, lunch, brunch, whatever it may be. In large parties, going out and doing a dinner together, a lunch together, whatever it may be. And it leads us down the wonderful, wonderful road of tipping.
Yeah, let's kick it off with come on, the best movie, one of the best movies.
I'll take care of the check. You guys can get the tip. Should be about $1 a piece. And you, when I come back, I want my book.
Sorry. And by the way, it's got to be mentioned that it is awkward in the everyone combine and leave a tip situation.
Oh, it's always bad. Yeah.
It's a weird situation.
All right, everybody cough up some green for the
lady. You can tell.
I feel this. I
don't tip.
You don't tip?
No, I don't believe in it.
You don't believe in tipping?
You know what these chicks make? They make shit. Don't give me that. She don't make enough money. She can quit.
I don't even know a fucking Jew would have the balls to say that.
We don't endorse.
That's Tarantino, not us.
Yeah, that's Tarantino. But by the way, I do say a lot of times when people are like, "Well, can you they make this amount of money?" Well, they could quit if they don't make enough money. Like that is now. Yeah, we can talk about tipping, but he's got a point with that. Like, if you don't make enough money, you can't quit and try to get a new job.
Look, it's a
let me just get this
fantastic
straight. You don't
scam.
have a tip, huh?
I don't tip because society says I have to.
Mm.
All right, I mean, I'll tip if somebody really deserves a tip. If they really put forth the effort, I'll give them something extra. But I mean, it's tipping automatically. It's for the birds. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they're just doing their job.
Hey, this girl was nice.
She was okay. I mean, she wasn't anything special.
I like this
What's
part
special?
too.
Take you in the back and suck your dick.
Well, not that. That would be great.
I'd go over 12% for that.
Look, I ordered coffee, right? Now, we've been here a long fucking time. She's only filled my cup 3 times. I mean, when I order coffee, I want it filled 6 times.
6 times? Well, what if she's too fucking busy?
Words too fucking busy shouldn't be in a waitress's vocabulary.
Excuse me, Mr. Pink. The last fucking thing you need is another cup of coffee.
This is exactly a conversation I have at the bar all the time. Especially, I don't know if you ever go to the all-you-can-drink places, like for brunch. Great example. Yeah. All you can drink, this, that, mimosas, bromosas, whatever the hell there's all you can drink. I keep track. I'm like, I'm tipping on how many drinks. I got 3 hours here, and I know I can suck down this drink in 10 minutes. So, I mean, that's 6 per hour. That's a heavy, demand, but I should get at least 4 per hour. And you know how much I tip when she, about an hour in, when most people are slowing down, she starts noticing I'm putting them back, and she starts putting another fresh one in front of me before I'm even finished with the one in my hand. She makes a large tip. But I do that same thing. I'm like, hold on. I expect 6 cups of coffee. She only gave me 2.
Jesus Christ. I mean, these ladies aren't starving to death. They make minimum wage. And I used to work minimum wage, and when I did, I wasn't lucky enough to have a job the society deemed tip-worthy.
You don't care they're counting on your tips to live?
You know what this is? It's the world's smallest violin playing just for the waitresses.
You don't have any idea what you're talking about.
I love this scene because it really had nothing to do with the movie at all.
No.
Like, really not even like character development, because that really had no place.
Tarantino is the best with like diner scenes, because somewhere in the middle of a crazy, like gory, insane movie, you will have a logical diner conversation. And I don't know that I've seen anyone who writes dialogue as good as he does. Like in Pulp Fiction, the whole diner scene with, like, it's just, Tarantino has a gift for this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Now I don't, I think tipping is an interesting topic to talk about, and there's a lot of facets of it.
Sure.
There is and we'll get into this, I think, more later. Should you tip? Then there's the what defines like exceptional service, as far as, because I also think you have the issue all the time. Actually, I'm going to change my order. I'm going to play videos here. You have the conversation of what the correct tip is. And then you talk to someone, my sister started in the service industry and worked her way up. And she's like, you should tip $20. I'm like, but the bill is $15. So yeah, but that's what they live for. I'm like, yeah, but I have to have a job too, and I have to make money. I'm not just, if I was a billionaire, I'd tip everyone 150%, but I'm not. Not yet.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'll give full disclosure. I was raised by a single mom from the age of 10 years old. My mom supported me by waiting tables and managing in a restaurant, right? But I will tell you on the flip side of that, my mother was also the absolute hardest person on service industry people, because when we went out, like, she was the one who was like, my drink's been empty for how long? Like, my mom was like auditing. She was like Gordon fucking Ramsay on the waitresses. But I understand that, that's how they live. And if you do it well and you put passion into it, much like anything in life, you can do very well. I think the problem as we progress through this is going to see, we become a society where it's just a given. Like, it's just everywhere. Yeah. It's everywhere. And so you're put in those situations where, am I an asshole? The quote back, am I going to hell? Right?
Yeah. Am I going to hell? This whole episode is kind of an, am I going to hell?
It kind of is.
And we have a few different situations we can kind of walk through, and a couple of them are going to be presented by one of the greats at observing, real life and then writing about it. Mr. Larry David.
I got it. Don't worry.
Thanks, Larry.
You're welcome. So you know what they do here? It's an 18% tip included.
Yeah.
And they have a space for an additional tip. You know, I'm old. I have to start doing math in my head now and then.
So here's, if anyone didn't hear it, I don't know how great the audio is on this video, but there's the 18% tip automatically included, and then additional tip, which first of all is a dirty trick because a lot of times people don't even notice that. They get their bill, they're like, I thought this was like a $35 meal, and it says it's 45, but oh well, I'll tip 15. That's a great tip.
Right.
That's probably what I've done dozens of times because I don't look very closely at the receipt. But so that's the trick. And I mean, you're familiar with Curb Your Enthusiasm, I assume, Jeremiah. So.
Oh my God, the king of uncomfortability. I love some Larry David.
Yeah.
He's everything I wish I could be.
Oh. Except for his hair.
Come out to $2. I'm leaving an extra $2. That makes me look cheap.
No, just leave the 18 and let's go.
Decided. I think that's all they expect.
I'm not leaving any more additional tips here.
No.
I'm protesting it. I swear to you, I'm going to protest it. I don't think it's right.
I'm going to follow your lead. It's a good protest.
This is crazy.
You ready?
Yeah, let's get out.
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's go. Let's go. Come on.
Thanks again, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good round. Ooh, was everything all right?
Good job.
Thanks. See, because you didn't leave a tip, and usually when I've provided excellent service, my customers like to tip me.
Well, there is an 18% tip included. Generally, I do leave an additional tip, but you know what?
I have to say, before he gets to his punchline on this, I don't think I've ever been negatively approached by a bartender or server about leaving too low of a tip. Now, that, in fairness, I don't know that I ever have.
Yeah.
So I think that could be part of it. But so that's this is a moment that I didn't know existed, that a waiter would actually confront someone, and I don't know if it does exist. To be fair.
I think it's all new again, Jeff, right? Back in the day, no. I would hear my mom bitch about, again, people who didn't tip her, but she didn't chase them down in the parking lot, right? I mean, yeah, so I think the entitlement ties into the conversation that we're seeing.
Yeah.
I'm kind of protesting the additional tip. I don't care for it.
You're protesting?
Yes. Let them charge me 20%. Let them charge me 25%.
Wish I had these balls, though.
Tip included. Then have to add up 18% to 20% to 25, whatever.
It's not that much, man. It's 2%.
It's hard to get to 2%. I don't know.
1%. You just move the decimal place 2 spots.
Okay, you have a system. I don't have a system to get to 2%. You know, don't make me do math at the table.
So you're protesting math.
I'm protesting math. Exactly.
Yep, there you go. Protesting math.
Works for me. But this happens, right, Jeff? Like you said, so many times, especially if you're out with larger parties. But I think with larger parties, you almost expect it because you know they're going to throw a gratuity, and that's cool. But depending on where you're traveling and where you are, there are certain places that are going to sneak that in. If you're sitting solo, or if you're with just you and a friend, and you've already got a 15% gratuity added, and then it's a weird situation that we set up, especially when you consider this is a United States thing.
Yeah.
This isn't a worldly thing. Like, what a better business bullshit job than an owner basically saying,
you pay my service.
Well, I mean, you should pay her for what she does, not me, right?
And I guess this is kind of, I mean, this does happen some places, I think, where, but there should basically just be an option of, go ahead, sit down. We'll announce your name. You come get your own food and bring it back to the table.
Right.
And here's a soda machine or whatever, or a bar if you want to. You go and get your own drink, and you don't have to pay for we don't pay servers.
Sure.
You don't have to tip. That's actually not a bad idea. I don't know if anything's exactly like that.
There is something that sort of exists like that, and it's one of my tip questions: buffets. Buffets. A lot of times you'll go to a brunch buffet or a Chinese buffet, so to speak, right?
They still stick a tip.
They bring me a drink, and I do the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, there's still that tip. Like, I need to tip you now? Like, what did you brought me a drink. Like, I'm not trying to judge your work or your value as a human, but like, what did you add to my experience here that the $19 I just paid for that buffet didn't? Because that's fake crab meat, motherfucker. Don't lie to me.
At a buffet, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's not only that. There's also the takeout people who work the takeout counter. And again, from my sister, I know from a not the one she works at now, if that's been revealed, but at a one she used to work at, a national franchised restaurant. The takeout person was busy, so busy that it was a server was off the floor and their job was the takeout. So they needed tips or they made no money. But I'm like, well, okay, explain to me what they do. And she said they do, you know, they usually had larger takeout orders, not a little doggy bag with a box like Uber. This was actually probably before the Uber Eats days, where now that's probably most what they do. And they probably don't get tipped now, frankly. Now, not from Uber Eats drivers. No. But the you know, $100 platters of food, they actually go get the plates and then organize them on the platter. I'm like, okay, well, then they do deserve a tip.
Yes.
But I know that now. But otherwise, I spend $100 on food. I go and pick up a bag of food, and a girl sitting there and hands me a thing and expects a tip. In my head, I'm thinking, what did she do to deserve a tip?
Yes. Luckily, someone from the service industry turned me on to that too, right? Because I used to say the same thing. I'm like, she moved a bag, and they're like, no. She's making sure your shit is cooked right. She's making sure that it's prepped right. He's making sure that it's all put together. Did you get your silverware? Did you get everything else?
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool. So then that's worthy of money. But I used to look at it the same way, where it was like, you just handed me a bag. Like, why do I owe you this? Right. So, but it does get into that, Jeff, and I can roll on it because here's the deal. Like you said, now you've got Uber Eats. Okay. You've got whoever else, Grubhub and whatever else. You know, those drivers aren't tipping anyone that they go to do pickup for. But here's the other question. And because of your drunk Jeff Eats, I have to lean on you for this. Jeff, you are now in a position that the person who is handling your food, who is bringing you your food, knows in advance how much you have tipped them. Does that ever worry you?
No.
Do you have to go heavy? Because what if you go light on the tip? Do you worry that the guy's going to take forever? Or he's not going to give a shit about your food?
No, because you can edit the tip afterwards.
Okay.
So that's a factor. And you know, one thing that's interesting, this is one thing I've argued with people. I base my tip on delivery. And look, I'm someone who's done Uber Eats deliveries myself. And I've gotten someone who I spent 15 minutes of driving and I made $20. I'm like, not a bad gig. It literally, my way home, I turned it on. I'm like, I stopped. I got, you know, I'm like, spent me, not bad. But I insist on my end. It's like, look, because I'm drunk, I might be ordering something that's walking distance away from me. You're not getting a 15 or 20% tip unless I order very little food. Because I feel like there's at least, even if they're down the street, there's at least a 3-minute drive. Okay, $3, like a minimum amount. But I'm more of a, I don't care if I got $60 of food that's in this little bag and you're driving it 1.5 miles to me. I'll tip you more if I got that $10 of food and you're driving it 45 minutes to me.
100%.
More because that's way more time. And I do think that's a flaw in the Uber Eats app, even, is it's always percentage based. And I'm like, this person's literally driving. Sometimes it's even, I order from places so close, it's a bicyclist who
That is the true drunk Jeff Eats. Like, I am too drunk to bicycle to my food.
Like a bicyclist. Nothing makes you feel like a fat slob, by the way, more than seeing that someone's bicycling from the restaurant to your house. And a couple times I've done it, and I've even been sober, and I was too lazy to go drive to the place.
Oh, your Uber Eats is on a bike.
I'm like, God. Now, in fairness, a couple of those times, because I've had probably a dozen bike deliveries, and about half of them have shown up in a car. And I'm like, oh, you cheater.
Cheating bastard.
Not a bad scam because you only have a small radius.
but that's something that worries me. Like, I don't order out that much, but when I do now, I'm like ordering pizza when my son's over or whatever. And it's that putting the tip on in advance that I'm like, it's not even that I don't you know, I understand you're driving. Again, I've grown up with people in the service industry. I get it. But it's almost like, I feel like if you're looking at the ticket ahead of time and you're like, this asshole left me $2, fuck him, right? He'll be last on my list, whatever it may be. So I feel like I'm getting that prejudgmental thing put in on this right away. Like over the weekend, my girl was at a bachelorette party, and it was like a weekend long party at a house somewhere. And it was like last minute crisis of needed food for the next day to make breakfast. So for the first time I used Instacart and like went on to Instacart and ordered some groceries and blasted those over. But again, it was like, I was getting, you know, how much are you going to tip the Instacart person? And I'm like, well, shit. One, I didn't know, but I guess you shopped for me. But then two, I wasn't even there to get the food. So maybe you fucked it up. I don't even know, but we've become so ingrained in this, dude.
Yeah. It's interesting because some of the apps, Instacart's one of them too, where you can edit your tip afterwards, which I appreciate. But I know ordering pizza from some of the chain places, you're leaving your tip up front. Now, you can always give him cash when he shows up to add to the tip, but you can't say, wait, I need my receipt. I'm editing the tip down.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
and
okay,
I also think with pizza, at least with Uber Eats, the bags are like stapled tape. Like they're usually like tamper-proof for the most part. Whereas with pizza, they're in a box that the guy easily could go and do something to the food and slide it back in the box. It's not really a, you know, tamper-proof case.
So, you know, the other part on that is we talked about waitresses and waiters and even delivery drivers are getting paid way less than the norm. I think in the video clip, they go, oh, they get minimum wage. Well, no, they really don't. There's a whole separate minimum wage for wait staff, right? So I get that. Now, one of the problems that I have is if I go to Starbucks to order an insanely overpriced coffee, they're still asking me for what tip I want to put if I use a card, and or there's a tip jar in front of me when Mr. and Miss Barista is not getting paid $2.13 an hour. She's not getting paid $4 an hour.
And
right?
Yeah, are we expected to know who's getting paid what?
Right. How the fuck do I know?
I even think that with massages, and I always tip generously with massages. And again, these are above board legit massages I'm talking about. But you know,
your
it's
tips
like,
go a lot further in the ones that aren't legit. Just say,
yeah. Much different. But even the other one, I look at their chart and I do like usually $5 more than like their, you know, what they recommend. But I'm like, part of me is like, well, gosh, I hope they're not making like $10 an hour. They're getting completely screwed and so dependent on my tip. But I'm like, well, what if they're making like $40 an hour? Then they don't deserve a tip at all. They're paid just fine for what they provided. Like, so, I mean.
So do you ever have those moments? Like there's a radio show. I think you're familiar with one of them because you're in Tampa, but Ron and Ron, which became Ron and Fez. And they were talking one day about getting haircuts. And they were like, you know, oh, you tip your barber. And somebody was like, well, of course you tip your barber. And the other guy's like, what? They're like, how much do you tip them? They're like, the price of the haircut. And like, my mind is blown. So I have to like start rolling all this shit through my Rolodex. Like one, a multimillionaire is saying this, right? He's a multimillionaire. So he might tip them the cost of the haircut. But like, do I? I don't understand how much a stylist gets paid. I don't go to a fancy hairstylist. All right. I'm a hair cutter, your fucking sports clips. Okay. Like, I mean, but do you tip them? And if so, how much? Because the screen's going to ask you, and these are your preset motions.
Now I remember exactly how we decided to do this episode, because I told you, I'm like, you know what's strange? I've never in my life paid to get my hair cut because I cut my own hair now, as you can probably tell, even though this is, I was wearing a hat all day, in fairness. I cut my own hair now. Before that, my mom cut my hair when I lived at home. Before that, my grandpa Pat used to take me to the Marine base to get a haircut.
Nice.
So I had very high and tight haircuts. And yeah, my mom cut my hair, went to the Marine base. My mom cut my hair, or I cut my hair. I've never gotten my hair. I mean, my grandpa Pat paid for those haircuts, but otherwise I've never paid for a haircut. So I don't know. I've heard some people tell stories about spending $60, $100 on a haircut, and I'm like, I spent $15 on clippers that lasted me 8 years.
So
I don't get it.
So a great / bad story with that and haircut is like there's this one sports clips that's close by. Okay, I am the most fucking basic man when it comes to that. If I'm gonna get my hair cut, put sports on the TV in front of me. They give you a little massage. The girls are usually cute. It is what it is. So I've had this one girl who cuts my hair, and I go back and I happen to have my son with me that day. And right now my son is running the Jeff Macolino. His mom is always, we took him early on, but his mom cuts his hair, whatever else. And I'm kind of giving him the nudge, and I'm like, oh, you need a haircut too. So it's around like, I want to say Thanksgiving, maybe it was around Christmas. But she cuts my hair. She cuts his hair. We talk him into getting into that. And when I go up, she's like, honey, you always take care of me. You're good. And was giving me like,
that means you must tip
a
really
free
well.
haircut. Right. So I'm like, well, I paid more than the haircuts just in the tip, which, I mean, good on her. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she made that extra money. But it's like that weird spot again. It's like, you didn't really give me anything. You understand I wasn't just going to turn around and walk out. Are there people like that? Are there assholes who just absolutely ignore it?
I wonder how much of some things with tipping is lack of exposure to what you're supposed to do.
100%.
Lack of knowledge of, because I feel like I had this conversation in probably college when I was talking to someone and they were talking about, I spent this on the haircut, then with tip. And my response was, you tip someone who cuts your hair? Because again, I still to this day, I'm 36 years old and I've gotten my hair cut at a barbershop before, but other people, parents or grandparents were paying for it. So I didn't worry myself about the tip. I have paid for my son to get a haircut before at a fantastic Sam's. And I tipped because luckily I knew you were supposed to.
Right.
Now he gets his haircut with clippers because I'm like, I'm not paying for a haircut. That's a sucker's gig.
Well, it's a whole other world, right? But there are still places in this world. There are still places in this world where understanding how to tip and when to tip, we should change the word tip. Because I'll tell you, I've been to Vegas more times than I can count at this point. But I've been to Vegas maybe twice with people who understood how Vegas worked, right? If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And there, the first night that we came in on a 3-night vacation, dude, he greased everybody from the cab driver to the front door guy to the freaking chick checking us in to everybody else. And to such a level that absolutely it elevated the entire experience. All of a sudden, when you became that person who put that extra cash, doors open for you that never would have opened before.
Oh, yeah.
So at that point, it's not even a tip, it's a bribe.
It's a bribe.
Right? I mean, it's a bribe. And I'm almost okay with the bribe. I would prefer the bribe than I would the tip.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that segues nicely into another video that's I had already had queued up, and then you also sent it to me. So
it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's clearly endorsed.
In a perfect world, nothing.
Shit. Is this the guy? Get on, man. We were having a nice meal.
Yeah, we were until the check came. Hi, I'm Adam.
Yeah, so we're gonna skim through this on mute, some of it, because we don't want to get copyright infringement, even though this is all within fair use stuff.
Video, I think you'll agree that tipping is a custom we'd be better off without.
It's a great show, by the way.
Yeah. Let's get one thing straight. If you live in America, you have to tip. Servers here rely on tipping to make a living. And as long as that's true, if you don't do it, you're an asshole.
I gotta ask you, have you ever not tipped?
No, I don't think I have.
I had
even with shit service, man. I don't think I have, and I think that goes back to the mom thing.
Yeah, I had one time where I left a it was like an 11% tip. It was like I left. It was like $39, and I left $44. And I did it intentionally to make a point because this guy was horrendous. It was a group of 8 probably of us, and it was a birthday, which automatically I feel like put a little more attention to that. And It was so bad. We had a first off, one thing, I had an appetizer that was put in. Also, we were all drinking.
Oh.
We got our first drinks. He came back. Everybody's drink was empty. We all said we all need another drink. He said, okay. We put in 2 appetizers. He left. 45 minutes later, he came back. Now, most of us had gone over to the bar to get ourselves drinks. He hadn't put our drink orders in yet, like 15, 20 minutes in. So we got ourselves drinks. We had finished those when he finally brought our second drink. Then he finally took, so we'd be then over an hour before he took our dinner order, you know, which isn't great. And it wasn't that busy of a place. Then about 45 minutes later, our food comes back. Most of us had gone to the bar to get another drink because he didn't check in on us at all. He brings us the food. Then we're like, wait, we never got our appetizers. He's like, oh yeah, they're coming. We're asking for the bills, and he brings out the appetizers. It's like everyone's already eaten. We're all pissed off.
Yeah.
And I still tipped him over 10%, just barely. But I was like, I can't. And I'm like, this is really fucking bad.
It's bad. Well, I just realized when you asked me if I'd never tipped, I think my mind, like a whole lot of other people's, went straight to food service, right?
Yeah.
I've never not tipped at food service. If you ask anyone who has been working on a cruise ship, an all-inclusive resort, or a hotel that I've stayed at, they'll tell you I stiff those motherfuckers daily. Because I don't understand. I don't know. Like, as a kid growing up, I never took business trips. I was never doing that. In my early 20s, I had a job that was flying me all around the country. And my sales manager, the first time that we were in a hotel together, and he was like, you made sure to tip the maid, right? And I'm like, what? He was like, well, you left a tip for the maid. No. He's like, what do you mean you didn't leave a tip for the maid? And I'm like, wait, like, break this down for me again. Like, why am I tipping her? Because, like, so I've tried to be better now when I travel, but it's still really hard for me to pay somebody to just come clean my room because one, I don't trash the fucking thing. Okay, if I puked on the floor, if I pissed in the corner, if I broke all your shit, then I'll give you a tip. If you make up the bed,
yeah.
Come on.
Well, I assume that's what they're getting paid to do. That's one. But the other thing is it's actually, that's one of those things that is usually very, like, if you don't remember it, it's not usually like in your face. Like when you check out of a hotel, they're like, did you want to leave gratuity for the maid? They don't say anything. So I probably stayed at several hotels before I even realized you were supposed to tip the maid. Like you said, when I went to Costa Rica, I completely forgot. I was walking out and I saw an envelope, and the way that place treated us at the end, asking for some of these incidentals, I actually wouldn't have left a tip if I knew what I knew when I was leaving my room.
What exactly is an incidental in Costa Rica?
Glass table, a few vases, a few incidentals. But look, this maid, if I had thought about it, she actually did have to clean my room a little bit more than more than any hotel room I've been in before, I'll say, for a few different reasons. Don't get your mind in the gutter, folks. They're all dirty. But yeah, no, I think we're all probably guilty of not tipping when we didn't know we were supposed to. And one other time, we talked about Uber Eats. Uber drivers that transport you, I feel, are a different class, because I know for a fact they make a much better way. Uber Eats drivers, the waiters of the world, they get paid like 55 cents, or 55-cent service fee, and then like a mileage fee. So you could drive, take an hour-long drive, and you'll make $3. They're relying on tips. Uber drivers, they make a decent amount of money for their mileage, and not great, but decent. So it's like, you have to be really good. Like, I've had ones that like have given me pot in the back seat of the car, that kind of, like, hey, you want to hit? Like, yeah, sure. Okay. You'll get a tip.
So we'll eventually get to a point on the Dads and Drinks show that we talk about conspiracies or great government problems or whatever it may be, because it's a fun rabbit hole to get into. But again, what a crazy ass world that we've been ingrained now. It's our fault, right? It's up to us.
Yeah, we've lived by their rules.
So much like tipping, we talked about the strip club, and I said, I've become a guy who, like, give me tricks, give me something for my money, right? So the first time I took a cruise, I didn't tip the lady at all that was cleaning my cabin because it never dawned on me that I should. And my cabin was made up and it was whatever every day. So the next cruise, better time of year, had a little extra cash, left a little $5 out for her, the first night. I come home and there's like an origami swan that's made out of a towel sitting on my bed.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, huh. So the next day I did $5. And now we had a monkey. By the end of the week, I was giving her like 15. I'm like, what's she got? Well, I've seen a monkey, I've seen a swan, but every day I came in and the tip was directly proportionate to the origami she made with a towel on the bed. I knew you were here. I was paying you for the entertainment. I am good with that. 100%.
Well, if they do something memorable, that's
right.
That's what Steve Buscemi, Mr. Pink, was saying in the beginning.
I'm ratcheting that up. Like, you take care of me, I got you, right? That's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's definitely a different world when it comes to this. Let's finish up with Adam.
Yeah.
We have doesn't mean it's a good system. And tipping is a custom that shortchanges servers, inconveniences customers, and makes the dining experience worse for everyone. I'm so
100% true.
First, ask yourself this. Why is it our responsibility to pay the restaurant's employees humanely? Why don't they just pay you a normal amount of money and make the food more expensive? I mean, that's what every business has done since the dawn of time. When you buy a pair of jeans, they're just $50. They're not like, that'll be $40, and you decide if the stock boy eats tonight. Ooh, sorry. What an asshole, huh? It's her fault, not mine.
The fact is, tipping is a relative.
It's ridiculous. Think of fast food. They get paid more than server. And I'm not saying they don't, but like, you don't tip the McDonald's staff. They work hard too.
Right. And aren't they basically working takeout? Right? Aren't they basically working takeout the same way as the person is at your local restaurant?
Yeah.
They're still bagging it, making sure it's all together.
There are
and handing
fast
it out
food
to
places like Chick-fil-A that will deliver the food to your table. They don't get
Correct.
tipped. I think
And
they
there's
actually
nothing.
refuse tips if you try.
Yeah, we'll get to that one in a
Chick-fil-A is a
minute.
different animal.
A new custom in America. For most of our history, paying for better service was considered an undemocratic form of bribery.
Serve me before this rabble, will you? I'm a very
Yeah.
wealthy man. I shan't, sir. This
And I'm
is
okay
America,
with that bribery.
where every man
I am too.
has the right to
There's
decent
a return
service.
for
There's
my
your
bribery.
Vegas.
After Prohibition
That's
banned the
it.
sale
There's
of
a return
alcohol,
for it.
restaurant profits cratered, and owners began encouraging tipping just so they could pay their servers less.
Oh, sorry, Allie. I'm not going to be able to pay you.
This is Prohibition, another issue that Prohibition cost. You teetotaling
Absolutely.
motherfuckers.
A century later, restaurant owners still pay their servers less than minimum wage, turning what used to be a bribe into an obligation that makes the end of every meal suck.
Unless your idea of a good time is doing math and being lectured by your friends.
20% of 138 is the same as double 10%, which is... Fuck! It's just the SATs all over again!
There's Larry David.
Wow, it's obvious you've never worked in the service industry.
And there's
I always
what
tip
my
at
sister.
least 60 because I care whether or not our waitress starves to death. If I give better service, I get a bigger tip.
Actually, you
This
don't.
is the best
A
point.
study at Cornell University found that the real reasons people tip more or less are basically random, and that customers who receive great service tip on average just
Boobs.
1%
Yes.
more than customers who don't.
Well, and fuck it.
Yes.
Should we not tip her?
I'm gonna get yelled at.
And none of this stress is necessary. In most cultures, nobody tips, and everyone still gets their food on time. The only difference is their waiters get a steady income, and no one has to argue about the bill.
And don't tip on the tax.
What? You always tip on the
That's such
I never tip on the tax.
that's such an old person thing. I've never heard that before in my life.
I haven't either.
Tip on the tax.
Time on Adam Ruins Everything, when I'll be talking about...
But what I
All right.
have heard, Jeff, though, is what you mentioned before, when it's a combined check. much like your birthday party that you went to. There's 8 of you. So the check comes, and now everyone's deciding how I'm going to take care of this. Side note, if I'm splitting the bill more than 4 ways, there's going to be an additional tip because that's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we did. I think that was split exactly 4 or maybe 3 ways, that tab. That's why I felt an obligation to tip.
Right. Absolutely. Right.
And let me play this last video because this this sets up what you're saying perfectly. It's another one from our good old pal.
Yay.
Larry David.
Coordinate the tip here. Why? Well, we split the check. We both have the exact same bill.
We favored nations all of a sudden for lunch?
No.
Yes.
Big deal if we both leave the same amount.
What do you want to do? What's your inclination?
$12?
Good. Put down 12.
How much are you going to leave?
I'm writing a number.
Jason Alexander is a huge prick.
Yes.
Bring it inside my little leather check holder. Waiter, thank you very much.
No problem.
You've been wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're not going to tell me what you left? Is that it?
You
don't believe in tip coordination. Is that it?
Dude. Yeah. Then you have the conversation and it gets into the awkwardness of like, and if everybody's like, oh, well, we'll just leave the tip. And then, you know, if you're a guy reaching for the singles in your pocket and your buddy throws a 5 before you, just natural human pressure is going to make you throw 4 more singles on the one that you were throwing, right?
Right.
It really is.
Now I do feel like tip coordination is a great thing, but only if you have someone with dignity and shame across from you, because you have we're splitting the check, you know, and then I did this with a buddy not that long ago, and he's, you know, he wasn't at the time. I don't think he was as financially stable as I was. So, you know, it came, and I'm like, we had the exact same bill. We both got 4 drinks that were the same price. We both got 1 meal. Actually, we split a large platter thing. So split on our bills. It was, you know, $40. And I'm like, I'll leave 20. And he's like, oh, hold on. It's like, you know, 25% is $10. That's a great tip for 4 drinks and 1 platter each. And I'm like, is that what you're going to leave? He's like, yeah, that's all I can afford to leave. And I'm like, all right, if you're leaving 10, I'm going to leave 10.
Yes, because, tip coordination.
Yes, $20 is too much. Like, I need to be reeled in by people because I usually tip like 50% because I'm kind of.
Look, I'm a sucker for a story, plain and simple. And, you know, I was lucky enough, I told you before, I worked at this job where we would take a trip every year for the top performers and the management, and we would go to an all-inclusive resort somewhere, right? And in all-inclusive resorts, especially the ones in Mexico, they'll really drill into you that, like, tipping is a no-no. Like, they do not want you to tip. Everything should be included. But the more that we've stayed there and done that, like, I'm the dude who finds the personal story. I start talking to the waitress or I start talking to the bartender, and they're telling me how they're working 70 hours a fucking week just to send money home, and they're staying on this resort while their family's 2 hours away. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a heartbreaker to me.
They're all lying.
They probably are, but we established again in the stripper episode.
Yeah,
hook, line, and sinker. But I'm like, dude, so you take care of them. But I will tell you again, when you're at a hotel bar like that, it's an all-inclusive resort. You're at the pool bar. If you find a way to slip him 20, you're going to understand what your 20 got you. So I guess that's my big roundabout story of saying,
that's how Jeremiah gets drugs at the.
I'm down with a bribe. I'm down with a bribe. If I'm giving you something and you return that favor to me, we can bribe all day long. The tip, like, now I just feel like, again, my high horse gets to, everyone expects it. The barista at Starbucks, everywhere. And not even to mention the fucking grocery store that wants me to donate to every, like, do you want to donate to hungry children? I'm like, I have a hungry child with me. I'm donating right now.
We can bring that up in the conspiracy series and scam. I've got some words about that. I want to bring up 2 things real quick. One is it kind of plays off what you said, where they refuse the tip. I had like airlines, right? When you order drinks, I've never even seen an option to tip the stewardess or the. So My buddy and I were riding Spirit Airlines to New Orleans. Spirit Airlines has the shittiest reputation. They charge you for having multiple limbs on your body. They charge you, you only got one limb for free. You have to pay $5 for each extra limb beyond your left arm.
No, only 9 fingers are free. You have all 10.
If you got all 10, that's an extra $60 surcharge. So we both get to the airport a couple hours before the flight, like responsible flyers. We drink from 9:30 a.m. until 11:30 when we need to board the plane.
Like responsible
flyers.
And
we're responsible morning drunkers. We're flying to New Orleans, and we both order. I think we got one mixer each, and we ordered 3 midi bottles each, which was not cheap.
No,
but we were talking the whole time. We were the loud people on the plane, but not. We kept it very appropriate because we knew our surroundings, but we were loud. But we were having a good time. People around us were laughing. It was not like we were the annoying guys. We were the fun guys who were just, the only ones who were alive and cared about what they were doing. So the stewardess walks by, whatever, flight attendant, whatever you're supposed to call. And this lady, I'm like, is it too late to order another couple drinks since we got another 40 minutes or so? And she's like, I think so, but hold on. So she leaves, she comes back, she tosses us each 3 bottles of what we were drinking. And I go, and she's like, don't worry about it. I'm like, well, wait a second. I'm like, there's no way that on Spirit Airlines, they just gave us 3 bottles of alcohol. So I walk by and I'm like, are you sure I can't? And she's like, no, sweetie, don't worry about it. You guys are having a great time. It's my pleasure. So we're going to get off the plane. I take a 20 out because I didn't, I'm like, I'm gonna. And she's, no. You keep that and you have a good time. And I'm like, man, Spirit Airlines is the best.
Yeah, she's an angel. She's an angel.
An angel in the sky. So every time Spirit Airlines is kind of like the punching bag for airlines, and I'm like, I don't know, it's the best flight I ever had. Was Spirit Airlines.
Well, I love that you mentioned airlines because here's the other thing. I mentioned Vegas before, but there's a certain level where enough has to be enough, right? So if you're doing Vegas right, you're tipping the doorman. He's going to take care of you. The cab guy, you got the hotel staff, and then you're going to pay a cover to get into a bar. And then you're going to go order a Jack and Ginger, and it's going to be $20. How much do I, at this point, how much do I need to pay this guy who just charged me $20 for a drink?
Right.
And if you don't, you're an asshole. Drinks. Right. Yeah. You've already priced your drinks up. Just pay that dude. Right. I'm good with that.
And they
hide the cost.
Do.
Yeah. Hide the cost. I'm good with that.
Yeah. Because the $1 to $2 a drink is pretty standard.
Right.
But when you're getting a $20 drink, you're like, $1. I'm poor. I'm cheap. I don't know what that says, but it's like, well, I guess I have to tip at least $4.
Right? Do I give you $2 because you charged me for $2?
You should tip $0 for a $20 drink.
It's unbelievable. Now, in the wraparound, we'll go back to the hotel staff that we mentioned before and all inclusives. I will tell you, my eye-opening, early 20s, first time really traveling out of the country. We went to Jamaica. And we get to Jamaica, and I'm up in the hotel lobby. We check in, and they have someone who's going to come carry your bags for you, whether you want them to or not. I had a small bag that was a rollaway, and they're like, no, the bellhop will take your bag. No. I'm like, literally, my room's right there. I'm good with this. No. And so he's walking, and he's bullshitting, right? Tip. But then we get into the room, and he was like, okay, here you go. And I'm like, all right, thanks, buddy. He was like, so you need anything else? I'm like, no, I'm good. Got my room. Thanks for the bag. Anything else? I'm like, no, I'm okay. Anything you want? I'm like, no. We're talking the same language. I understand what you're asking me for. The answer is no. Find me tomorrow after the open bar and we'll negotiate. But right now, these guys were open to getting you anything.
Oh yeah, they'll broker. They got deals with people.
But again, I'm good with that on a tip. Make it a bribe, and I'm beautiful, man. Hide it the cost. I'm good. Stop putting in front of me when I order a $7 coffee at fucking Starbucks, and I got to look at the barista in the face and tell her I'm not going to tip her $2 on the drink.
I had a guy when I was in Costa Rica who worked at or around the resort. I don't know. And most of my friends were, you know, out on the town, and I just wanted to stay home and do something else, or stay back at the hotel and do something else. So I asked the guy, I'm like, hey, he's like, oh yeah, I'll call these girls. He's like, you're definitely going to get one, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, good. They pay me 20%. So I'm like, so I don't have to pay you. He's like, nah, they take care of me. I'm like, okay,
even
well,
better.
$20 anyways.
Yeah, but I will say again, in Vegas is a place where I've never felt better about the tip money that I spent went to good causes. Because anyone that I tipped, they provided me a service that I would not have had I not tipped the amount of money that I had. Perception is reality. There was something in it for me. If it's just me giving you $1 at Dunkin' Donuts, I'm pretty sure that coffee and that donut would be the same quality with or without your buck. So,
yeah. On that note, I'm going to say this. We don't have a recommendation for this week, but if you would like us to recommend your channel, and you're not huge, but you're growing and you want more people, hit us up in the email below or on social media. All our social media for both of us is in the show description underneath this video. I'm also going to leave you with this. This is going to be a segue to the next episode.
What?
Because I was debating bringing this up when I mentioned earlier about the tips are random, and I said boobs.
Ah,
so
yes.
I think this is actually going to segue well, because I used to always rag the hell out of people, even though I'm a sucker just like everyone else, of they work for tips. Of course they're flirting with you. Yeah. That's what they do. They make tips. Yeah. I'll also say this. My first ex-wife was my server. So, I mean, it can happen. So next episode, we're going to be talking about, we're going to do another Keys to the VIP episode. So I think we should segue this whole conversation.
You know, we will. And I'm just going to tell you, you know, to tie to that, Jeff, here's the deal. If I go to see a David Copperfield show, I know for a fact he's not going to make the Eiffel Tower disappear, but I paid for the entertainment, okay? So if I'm at a Hooters, I understand you don't like me, but I'll still pay for the entertainment.
Hey, you never know what can happen. Oh, boy, this could be a whole separate episode. All right. Come back next week. We left it on a cliffhanger.
Next week.
Gotta love it. Hey, and subscribe.
And like and leave a comment, you fox.